Hey everybody, I want to run you through some basic tips that I use in Squarespace every single day to try to get me in and get me out and make my life a little bit easier. Some of these are pretty small, but when you kind of add them up, it is definitely a time saver, so let's get into it. So tip number one in Squarespace that I would recommend checking out is using the / or the question mark on your keyboard. That's going to prompt a search box that will allow you to basically get to any menu or any area within Squarespace. So this can definitely be a time saver if there are certain areas you need to go to, especially in some of the menus within Squarespace can be found a little bit deep into the system, like if you're going under some advanced areas under the settings section of Squarespace. So this will allow you to get to some of those sections pretty quickly. A good example is code injections, which can be found under settings, under advanced, and then go under code injections. So this is something that can save you time if that's where you need to get to quickly. But yeah, that's tip number one. So in tip two, I'm going to show you a little bit of a convenience that you can do within Squarespace that most new users aren't aware of until they've been using Squarespace for quite a while and looking online and seeing other tips and stuff like that. So this is another one. It's, again, it seems very small, but over time, it's going to help out. So let's get to it. So a good example here is if we use the code injection section to kind of showcase this. So if we go under settings and we go under advanced, and now we go under code injections. So now we are 3 menus deep into Squarespace, and sometimes it's just really annoying to keep hitting that back arrow, that back arrow, the back arrow, just to get you back to the main navigation of Squarespace. So all you really have to do is double click on that back button and it'll take you right back home. So let's do that. So right here, now you can see that we have the back arrow. So all we have to do is just double click on this and we are right back to the main menu. So hopefully this one can help out and just alleviate some general time that you're going to be spending navigating through all the menus in Squarespace. But let's move to step 3. All right, so another very, very useful tip that I use constantly within Squarespace while I'm editing a page. So let's just first go ahead and edit this page here. And so adding blocks in Squarespace is very, very powerful tool to use. So it could be just as simple as, okay, we want to add an image between these two statements here. So typically you would just click on the plus sign between those two elements, and we'll come over here and we will just click and add an image block. So this is pretty simple, and what I just did is most likely what you probably want to do anyways. However, sometimes if you want to line content up in different areas, there's actually a really nicer way to do this. So if we just go ahead and remove that image block and do it again. So whenever I click on the plus sign, I get the pop-up of all of the different blocks you can add within Squarespace. Most people are unaware that you can actually click and drag any of these blocks onto your screen, into your page layout. So I could literally click and hold this, and wherever I let go of my mouse is where that block is actually going to be created on screen. So all I have to do is just let go, and now we just simply added an image block between those two sections. So this is very useful, especially if you want to align content next to other content. A good example might be you want 3 images next to each other. Typically you would have to make 3 images on top of each other, then click and drag each image to the corresponding area. So with this, we could actually just right from the menu, drag them exactly where we want them. So let's go ahead and do that really quick. So right here, I have a brand new page with just a simple text box, and we're just going to go ahead and add 1 image first, and then we'll just close out of that. So now, instead of actually adding 2 more images on top of this, we're actually just going to grab 2 more images. So we're going to grab this and we're going to let go. And now we got 2 images next to each other, and we're going to do the same exact thing. Just grab another image, drop it right on the side. So now that's a very, very simple way to just line up blocks of content next to each other without having to do some other steps in between that. But hopefully this will help. Let's move on to step 4. So another very, very small tip that I do end up using fairly often is just to hit escape on the keyboard, which will expand the window to be full screen so I can kind of see what it looks like without the Squarespace navigation built in. So if I just hit escape, goes full screen, I hit escape again, goes right back to normal. So it is the same thing as hitting the arrow up in the top right corner of the screen, but it is just one of those things that will help out over time if you do end up using that quite often. So yes, this is a very, very small feature, but if it's something that you are using and do want to check quite frequently, then it's an easy way to do it. So let's move on to our final step. So with the final tip, let's go under design and custom CSS. So this is probably more of an advanced feature, or somebody who's been using Squarespace for a while and just have been testing out using some custom code. Now, I understand a lot of people who use Squarespace don't frequently write CSS or have a really, really solid and good understanding for this, but Squarespace does have some features built in that actually helps keep your code cleaned up and organized, at least a little bit. So I'm just going to show you one of the most basic tips that Squarespace has built in that you should be using if you don't have a strong grasp of utilizing CSS that often. So if we go under here, you can see that yes, there's some basic CSS that's been put onto the site. And so if we want to clean up the code just to make it look a little bit more organized, you can kind of see things are kind of spaced a little weird, and this might be due to you've found some code online, asked them for some help, and somebody pasted in some code, so you just kind of copy it and paste it into your site. But the problem is, the more you do that over time, the messier the code's going to look. So to kind of keep everything cleaned up a little bit, or at least a little bit straighter and organized, is if we just go over here and highlight all of the text and just hit Shift Tab. Shift Tab is automatically going to tab space all of the CSS properties accordingly, so everything's all nice and lined up. The other thing you might want to do is spaces between the brackets. If there's any blank spaces, just go ahead and delete those. Let's just make sure we got any others here. All right. Cool. So yeah, this particular feature, it's pretty straightforward and easy. It doesn't do anything major, but it does help clean things up over time. But yeah, this is some of the basic tips that I typically use every single day. So hopefully this helps, and I look forward to doing some more videos. See you then.